Welcome to a Traders Talks Q&A with Pyronix. I'm Simon Reeve, one of the 11 account managers within the UK Pyronix team. The engineer has the ability to adjust volumes within the Pyronix Enforcer and Euro range of control panels. Within the engineer menu, there's a change volumes menu structure, and that gives the engineer access to independently control volumes for things such as the entry-exit tones for A, the entry-exit tones for B, and the entry can be different to the exit. We've got the alarms, we've got the chimes, we've got the event of a fire, we've got a tamper, so there's fully controllable volumes in there. The volume levels work from a level 0 through to a level 7. Level 0 is completely silent and can be used to silence the volumes of any particular action within the panel. Level 1 is silent, but only really to be used with timers. And at the end of the timer expiring, so at the end of an exit timer, you get a single confirmation beep, and we default this automatically for you as the bedtime set method. So when the system's being set for bedtime, there's no noise while it's counting down, and at the end of the process, you just get a discrete double beep, a single confirmation tone that lets you know that the system's actually set successfully. The volumes 2, 3 and 4 are used for sort of low emergency notifications, so general alerts, things such as the entry exit timers are defaulted as those levels, but also things like chime as well. And then 5, 6 and 7 are used for the alarms, the fire, the tamper, etc., those things that need to create more urgency and take it into use. That 95 decibel piezo sounder, they are very, very loud within the system. If you set chime up, the user can also enable or disable chime at the keypad. So in the user menu with the system unset and the date and time showing on the keypad, you're able to press the C key and the C will remove a little C icon next to the clock and the chime stops working. By pressing the C again, the little C icon appears back on and the chime commences working. And I use that myself when I'm loading the car up and I'm in and out of the house and the door's obviously chiming continuously. It can get a bit annoying, so the ability to be able to control that as a user and turn that volume off completely and then bring it back on is quite useful. The wireless arming station wasn't designed to give chime. The wireless arming station, or LED keypad WE that we have as a part number, is usable away from the panel to give you the ability to arm and disarm the system. And at the point of arming and disarming the system, away from the panel area, away from the centre of the house, you may need the ability to walk into the garage, as an example of the outbuilding, and hear those entry tones start to remind you to unset the system. And when you start setting, you need some confirmation that the setting process has begun and the exit tones are obviously playing out. And you can use proximity tags on there. You can have it light up and it'll automatically wake up when you come to disarm the keypad, because we know that you've entered by opening the entry exit door, and you just press the no button to wake that arming station up when you start to arm the system, because we don't know that you're arming. There's no way of sort of triggering an arming process realistically without waking the keypad up. There are a number of radio rules around the use of wireless equipment within the UK market, and we're only allowed to transmit for a very, very small percentage of the time. So having the keypad active, the arming station active all the time, whilst we're sending chime information. At my house, where I've got gate contacts, I've got external dual techs, the tri-tech that we do. There's a number of different devices when the postman comes or someone comes onto the property that are chiming, and that increased amount of activity while I'm washing the car would actually violate radio rules. So we have to be careful as to what we do realistically. There are ways of working around it, and obviously as products have developed, we have got a wireless internal speaker siren, an illumination device on its way, with us in the next couple of months, and that will give us the alarm tones as well as the chime tones if the panel's got the right hub version within it. With regards to those chimes being in sync with the panel, there's always going to be the potential for up to a 2-second delay within the system. Again, the wireless device out in the field, whether it be the bell box or the keypad or the new chime that we're developing, can't be active all the time because of violating radio rules, and also using battery life. So those devices actually listen every 2 seconds. Now what that does mean is if the listening period of 2 seconds has just expired when the panel asks it to start the entry exit tones, that can mean that obviously it takes up to 2 seconds for those entry exit tones to start when it next gets around to checking in again. Now typically you'll tend to find that it'll be less than a second, and again if the keypad's quite far out of range or has got very weak signal, you'll tend to find it's towards that 2-second mark. But they'll never be, or very unlikely they'll be 100% in sync. They'll always be sort of half a second to a second behind realistically. So As a complete wireless system, we didn't envisage the requirement for a wired extension speaker to be installed, as people were asking for a wireless alarm system. Now, we knew, because we'd observed our competitor products and other products in the market, we talked to engineers, and we knew that there was a requirement for some engineers to fit a wired bell box. Some people feel more comfortable having the wired bell, and some people like the fact that we have illuminated sirens with a delta bell range, which give that little bit of added deterrent. So providing that wired bell was always important. Providing a wired speaker wasn't really something that we're asked for particularly. It is asked for every now and again, so we obviously have got the requirements in place with the internal wireless speaker, siren, and illumination device, and that will give you all the entry-exit functionality on the Enforcer system, and we'll be launching that over the next couple of months. In the meantime, if you do want a wired internal speaker, there are a couple of options. If you fit one of the EUR064 or EUR068 wired keypads to the Enforcer panel, that will give you a speaker output on there. It's an odd way of doing it, but if you have got a keypad already on the system, that does give you the ability to wire it off of that keypad. Any tones that go to the keypad and are played through that extension speaker wired into it. You've also got a product called a ZEM2P. A lot of people don't know about this. It's an unknown product almost, but this is a white plastic boxed extension speaker, and instead of wiring to the speaker outputs, it wires into the RS485 keypad bus. So it wires in as a keypad, and anything that the keypad would do, whether that be entry, exits, alarms or chimes, the ZEM2P is able to then do on behalf of the system. First of all, we've got the PIR range that comes in the panel. PIRs are generally not suitable for shed or garage environments. We do have installers that use them regularly, and you tend to get very few problems with them, but a lot of that is by luck more than judgment. You will get quite harsh temperature environments in things like conservatories, garages and sheds, where those rooms warm up and cool down, get drafts in, etc. Those convection currents blowing around that warm and that cold air together can cause PIRs to false alarm. Since about 2016, we've had the KX range of wireless dual techs. They come as a dual tech or a pet tolerant dual tech. They can be installed within a garage or a shed environment quite safely, but also in conservatories, and they match aesthetically, albeit they're a little bit deeper, they match aesthetically the PIR range. So if you are using it in the conservatory, it'll look the same as the PIR in the living room. In the next room, people won't really notice. We've also got the external Tritech, which was designed for external use in environments where you will see animals such as foxes, badgers, dogs, cats, and birds roaming around in the property. So we've used these on farms quite extensively. We've used them on caravan storage units, and we've also used them internally within larger sheds and barns. So these devices cover a 12 metre by 12 metre range, and they require some activity in the upper area and the lower area, so above and waist height. On the PIR devices, so there's two PIRs in there, and when they activate, they'll activate a microwave module which will detect as well and see physical movement. That gives you some really reliable detection. Because it's designed for more hostile environments, they do work really, really well in sort of big barn environments as well. So there are three sets of codes with the Enforcer. You've got the engineer code, that has to be changed within the engineer menu in the change codes menu. That can be overtyped straight away, so you can hop in there, you'll see the 1111 default actually all in there, and you'll be able to overwrite that and press yes and progress through the menu. And that will give you a change to that engineer code straight away. The user codes are broken down into the main manager codes, that's the main system operator, and we put a default code of 2222 into the system from default. So that 2222 code, the manager code, can be changed within the engineer menu or within the user menu. Within the engineer menu in the change code section, you'll see the manager code option. If you press yes to go in there, you'll see the brackets are filled with stars, so it's obscuring that code, so the engineer can't go in there and sort of read the code at will. What you have to do in there is you have to press the C key to delete the old code out, or clear the old code out, and at which point you can then type into the blank space your new code for the manager, or with the manager. Again, it obscures that code, and you can then progress through, giving the ability to set, unset, and have control of all areas. We'd always recommend the manager has control of all areas and can set and unset, and giving them a name, which again uses that predictive text function. Now, once the manager is set up, the manager can also use the manager menu. So from day mode, they can press the D key, and that D key will bring up the enter code prompt. They enter their manager code, the default 2222 there, and it will take them through a number of options. One of those options in there is now called edit users and has been for a while. Previously, it was called change codes, going back probably 4 or 5 years ago. Now, within the Edit Users menu, you can either add a new user or you can delete or change users. Deleting or changing gives you the ability to obviously delete out a code if a member of staff leaves, or also change over a code to another code without actually changing the authority of that particular user or their name. So it'll actually retain some of the programming. Pyronix LightCamera supports a micro SD card, so you can install a micro SD card up to 128 gig, and that will record constantly to that SD card from the LightCamera locally. You're able to access those recordings through the app, and you're able to save them to the phone, share them, make use of them, as well as obviously looking through those clips as events get pushed through to the phone. It'll grab and highlight bits of footage for you to flick through rather than having to look through the whole recording. Now, you can also pick up that footage from the LightCamera to an NVR or a DVR with spare IP connection options. So if you've got spare IP camera options or channels, you're able to put in the IP address of the LightCamera, put in the verification code off the side as the password, and at which point you'll be able to stream that footage into the NVR. So my floodlight camera at home has got an SD card in, so it's recording to that all the time. But what I've also done is I've given that floodlight camera a static IP address. That can't be done within the camera as there's no web browser interface for the engineer. It's designed as a consumer operated simple product. But what I have been able to do is go into the router on the premises. So I've got a Virgin route here, but all routers support the same functionality. And I've been able to find that camera and I've been able to map that to a static IP address. So even if the router or the camera reboot, it will always have the same IP address. Within the NVR, I can then put that IP address, put that verification code, and I can record on motion events rather than recording full time, and I can extend my hard drive in that way. So I've got a lot more functionality as far as the recording and backups concerned. Where this is key is that floodlight camera may be an introduction to video surveillance for your customer. So to them, for them to get excited and want more cameras at a later stage, as they've now got a taste for what video surveillance products can do for them, you don't want to be in a position where that camera is now no longer of use and it's replaced. Because that's a dead investment. So you can still maintain the use of that existing camera and fit additional cameras, NVRs and stuff on site as they get more interested. So it's a real gateway into video surveillance for people. Most of the consumer brands of things like doorbells and light cameras that people are buying obviously don't have any further use, and once you install video surveillance, they're always on a separate app and they start to become outdated as a result. So it's nice that this can be bought into future installations. The Twin Alert is a piezo sounder that gives a high and a low alert tone. That Twin Alert sounder can emulate the alarm tones, the entry exits, the chimes, etc. But it requires two separate inputs, basically an entry exit type input or a local input, and also a high alarm, tamper, etc. The siren input from our panels. Within the Enforcer itself, you've got three outputs. You've got bell, strobe, and programmable. So if you are already using the bell, and if you're not using the bell and the strobe outputs, you're able to wire that Twin Alert into those and reprogram those functions. Alternatively, if you are already using the bell and the strobe outputs to wire a bell to, you're left over with a PGM output, and that PGM output could give you internal alarms, or it could give you internal entry-exit tones coming through that device, or entry-deviation tones as an example, but it would only be able to do one of the functions because we've run out of outputs. Similarly, on the keypad, you've only got one programmable output, which either drives a speaker off of the wired keypad, or you can program it to follow any function within the panel. Where the Twin Alert comes into its own realistically is when using our Zone 8 Plus, which has got 4 outputs in, and you mount this in sort of a bigger industrial environment or in a school as an example, and around each expander you want those local and those high tones to make sure that when you're arming the system, everybody hears it throughout the building. As an example, when the fire alarm goes off again, it replicates this. So from that point of view, it works really, really well. With the Enforcer, we are limited because of the lack of outputs. Again, as a fully wireless system, we never envisage the requirement to really add those on. Now, it is something that people are asking for, having the alerts, the alarms, the entry exits in different locations around the property. So that can be done wirelessly with a new wireless internal speaker siren and light that's due out within the next couple of months, and that will give you intruder, fire, chime and entry exits if we've got the right hub versions in there, and that will also give you some level of illumination. So in the event of chime, you'll also have a visual chime in the event of the alarm going off because someone's pressed a panic button in a factory environment. As a lone worker, this device will obviously strobe and scream as well at the same time, and obviously alert people even in a noisy environment. They'll see the strobing, so that will give some really good functionality, and again we'll do away with the need for the twin alert on the Enforcer. Thanks for watching Pyronix in Traders Talks Q&A. Please like and subscribe to the Traders Talks channel, and for more information about Pyronix, please have a look at our website, which is pyronix.co.uk, for more information, or get in touch with your local account manager. Thank you.